I do believe there is murder afoot. Let's get started. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Knives Out together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. Otherwise, a series of terrible things will happen to me, and my family will all squabble over who gets all of my earthly possessions. Because that's the thing that happens a lot. It's going to be really tricky to talk about Knives Out without spoiling anything. This is a whodunit, a classic whodunit in every sense of the word. So it's full of spoilers. So I got to be really careful and pick and choose exactly what I want to say here. In essence, Christopher Plummer is a rich mystery novelist who made his fortune writing mystery books and lives in a mansion in New England with his very waspy family. And one day he is found with his throat slit, and murder is most surely afoot. And Daniel Craig plays a private detective named Benoit Blanc who wants to figure out who done it, because he was hired to do so by someone who shall not be named, because that is a spoiler too. One thing that I think everybody should know, and it's something that none of the marketing ever really seemed to tell us, is that this movie belongs almost entirely to Ana de Armas. I know it's sold as a Daniel Craig film. I mean, if you look at this poster, he's front and center. He has top billing, but he is not the main character of this movie. Ana de Armas is the main character of this movie. I don't know why she has third billing. Like, she should be right there at the top. She is in, I want to say, every scene. I think there might be one scene in this entire movie that doesn't have Ana de Armas in it. So if you're going in expecting like Daniel Craig nonstop the whole way through, you get a lot of Daniel Craig, but you don't get as much of anybody as you get of Miss de Armas. And that's not a bad thing, because she is a very good actress and her eyes are made of magic. I mean, look at them. Sigh. As per usual in whodunits like this, you have an assortment of colorful characters who all have a pretty darn good reason to want to see the deceased be deceased in the first place, and they're all gathered in this very large, stately manner, where one of them probably will be leaving in handcuffs. Now, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the whole 70s aesthetic of the marketing campaign. I mean, that logo, this original teaser poster, these are pure straight out of the 70s, and that makes sense because the 70s was when Agatha Christie movie adaptations and the movie whodunit in general kind of reached its peak. It never got more popular than it was then, and I think it kind of petered out with Clue, because love it or hate it, Clue was kind of a hot mess. So the Clue movie really killed this genre in a way, and it hasn't been super front and center ever since. We've had a few hits and misses. We had Gosford Parks every now and then, but Knives Out really seems to be embracing it all with a sense of fun. And I think that's the key word here, folks, because Knives Out is absolutely delightful as long as you know going in that this whole story is being told to us with tongue planted quite firmly in cheek. This is not a serious melodramatic murder mystery about the horrors of death and the dark machinations of a homicidal mind. This is a comedy first and foremost. In fact, it feels a lot like the Clue movie at times, but less corny and more, actual good-natured chuckles going on here. Knives Out was not designed to make you ruminate on the deep, dark choices of humanity and what drives a person to kill in the way something like Murder on the Orient Express would do. Knives Out is meant to put a big old smile on your face, tell a great story, wrap it up in a nice little bow, and serve it on a platter with one of the best casts of 2019 assembled together in this ensemble. Like, look at this. This is great. In fact, every poster and piece of promo material for Knives Out has just been absolutely beautiful to look at. You've got this cast poster, but like, look at these individual character posters. Everything just is so frame-worthy. I want to frame all of these. If I had like a mansion the size of the mansion in this house, I would have a Knives Out room that was just a room full of Knives Out posters, because I love these posters so much. Now, the very clever tagline in the trailer for Knives Out refers to it as a whodunit like nobody's ever done it. And I was, not sure what to expect when I heard that. And now that I have watched this, I think I can safely say I understand what they mean when they say this is not like your grandpappy's Whodunit. This is something different. And I think it's safe to say this without it being a spoiler, is that even though there's a very retro aesthetic going on here, this movie takes place firmly in the present. This is a 2019 movie. Everybody's driving around in modern cars. People are talking about Twitter. People are texting each other. It is a modern Whodunit, and I don't think that that has ever been the case. I mentioned Gosford Park, which is the last big mystery movie that I can remember coming out, even though that was over 10 years ago. That was a period piece. That took place at the turn of the century during the Agatha Christie days, because Agatha Christie, her books existed in this sort of perfect sweet spot in human history where it was the time of British nobility. So you would have these large houses with large groups of people in the houses, full of family members and full of servants who could be, kind of invisible at times. Back in those days, you could have a butler who's just standing there in the corner of the room polishing something, or you could have a maid who listens at a door. It was an environment that sort of bred that type of murder mystery, and I think that's why Agatha Christie's stories always sold so well, because they almost wrote themselves. The culture wrote the stories itself. And maybe, I can't speak for Hollywood, but maybe the reason why we haven't seen whodunits for so long is because the culture has been so different, so we can't really have those kinds of stories anymore. Remember, it is very, very hard to write a believable story in the present thanks to stuff like this. Thanks to cell phones. Yes, these are very handy, but they ruined a lot of things too. You can't have movies like Halloween anymore because all Laurie Strode needed to do was dial 911 on her cell phone, because guess what? Michael Myers can't pull out the cell phone wire from the back of the house. All she has to do is say, "Hi, there's a guy with a mask in the house," and this will save her life. The modern world is making it increasingly more difficult to build tension in fiction. Somehow, even though the world of Knives Out has full access to cell phones and cars and whatnot, you still have tension, you still have a great murder, and you still have ample suspects and ample reasons to suspect every single one of these crazy people. Rian Johnson, I think, is one of the few writers talented enough to make that all work. There's never a moment in this film where a problem could have easily been solved by the fact that they lived in 2019. And I can't stress enough how important that is moving forward, because maybe, just maybe, people will take a page out of this playbook and realize, hey, we can still tell great whodunit stories and have them be pretty damn fun too. Now, I'm going to put up a very tiny, mild spoiler warning. It's a baby spoiler warning, because I'm not going to tell you who the killer is. I'm not going to tell you the solution to the mystery, because that's just spoiling the fun, baby. What's wrong with you? You don't want to know this. Go watch the movie. Don't let me tell you what it is. No, that spoiler warning is there just because I want to say something regarding how certain things play out. And it might be considered a minor spoiler. So if you don't want to know a damn thing, go ahead and stop now. Okay? Okay. Without getting into too much detail here, I think it would be good for you to walk into this movie without expecting mind-blowing twists. And I think in recent film, especially, the way Rian Johnson tends to write, mind-blowing twists can be expected in certain things, and when we don't get them, we feel disappointed. Was I expecting mind-blowing twists? To be honest, I don't know. Maybe I was subconsciously. But this movie doesn't really have that. It has a very simple, logical solution, and it gets there in a complex way. It's not just like, this leads to this, so therefore the killer is that. It's more of the killer is that, but in order to get to that, we're going to take you on a loop-de-loop and make you think a whole bunch of other things until we arrive at this destination. There's a turning point early in the film where you almost think this is going to be an entirely different movie. It makes it look like it's going to be a whodunit from a different perspective, and then it's not. And then by the end, the twist is that it's a normal whodunit. And I can't really say more without spoiling anything, but the point is that I don't want you to go in expecting to be shocked and see something you have never seen before, because that's not Knives Out. Knives Out is not meant to make you experience this from a whole new point of view. It's meant to bring this genre back, I think. I can't read Rian Johnson's mind, but I believe it's meant to bring the genre back, to prove it can still work, to prove it can still work in a modern setting, and to have just a lot of fun with it. Because even though Murder on the Orient Express was pretty good and well made, it was kind of dry. It was a pretty dry movie. Knives Out is not a dry movie. You're going to be smiling the whole way through. At least I know I was. So that's all I can say without giving away too much of the beating heart of what makes Knives Out such a bloody good time. You're going to have so much fun with all of these characters. Rian Johnson has gone on to say that he would like to do another movie with Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc. I really hope that's the case, folks, because this was an absolute delight. So that's Knives Out. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you here next time, and until then, adios.